What's poppin', home slizzles? It's your man HyperRocket, and welcome to another video. As you can probably tell already, this video is a little different than my normal videos, but I figured that I should start talking about things on the server that you guys can actually benefit from, aside from just watching my mediocre gameplay. But anyway, let's get started. We're talking about making in-game money on Invaded Lands Kit PvP. This guide is supposed to be taken in combination with the Noobs guide I posted way back when. The idea here is that by following both of these guides, you should have a better picture in mind when it comes to finding success on the server. So why am I making this guide? Wasn't the original one enough? Let me explain. I touched briefly on the in-game market in that video, but I never actually went into detail when it comes to making and spending money. I focused primarily on the PvP aspect of the server, which made sense because one can easily achieve their short-term goals on the server purely from PvP. But it is incorrect to assume that the most effective way, without fail, of reaching your goal is through straight PvP. Success on the server is very much dependent on using the markets that all players have at hand. With that as a short teaser, let's talk about details. As I mentioned in that video, non-donators are certainly at some disadvantage when it comes to accessing in-game items, but I also mentioned in that the items non-donators can purchase in-game are actually pretty strong. Going briefly over them, you can purchase up to Protection 3 and Breaking 2 Diamond Armor from the shop, and Sharpness 3 Diamond Swords. If that doesn't resonate, let me try to convince you that these items are very strong. Let's talk about armor. If we think about ordinary loadouts that people use, most players go out with the daily kit items. So this usually includes Protection 1 Diamond Armor and an OP Apple. As I've mentioned before, I strongly suggest against using your OP Apples with your daily kits because OP Apples are extremely valuable, and you probably don't want to pair them with mediocre gear. Despite this, and more on the topic of how strong OP Apples really are, a player can eat an OP Apple in Protection 1 armor and be invulnerable for 30 seconds. On top of that, OP Apples grant resistance and fire resistance for 5 minutes or so. The more important effect from this is regular resistance. In my experience using Sharp 3, I cannot consistently deal net damage out to an opposing player if they are chugging regular golden apples with resistance. That is crazy. With your daily kit that everyone has access to, you are pretty much invulnerable to the rest of the server, so you could stay alive if you really had to. For the armor, or for the sword rather, as I've just said, it's not actually that strong against players with resistance. Despite this, if you have the jump on a player that is not full health, doesn't have resistance, or can't react quickly enough to start chugging, you basically have a free drop. That's incredibly strong in a kit PvP server because there's no way you can be attentive to every possible engagement. Every player is bound to get cleaned at some point. If that's not good enough, you can pair Sharpness 3 with a Strength Potion, which in fairness is not cheap, and you can quick drop pretty much anyone on the server who doesn't have Regeneration 4 in 3 hits or so. So yeah, I don't want my fellow non-donors telling me that no matter what, I can't make it on the server. Follow my guides and you can best the high donators, trust me. The caveat to everything I just said about the sword is the Strength Potion. I don't have a market going price for these, but from what I've seen, players charge up to around $20,000 for each, which makes sense because strength is absurd. So let's talk about how you can stockpile these. In particular, let's talk about how you can actually make money. I'm going to go over 2 main different game plans and 1 bonus one, but it's worth mentioning that all of them can be narrowed down, generally speaking, to utilizing the auction house and the trade command. The first strategy, which I've already touched upon in a previous video, is to stack up on high durability kit armor. I'm talking bright green, Protection 1 Diamond Armor. Because of the trade command, you can trade up to 3 sets at a time with another player. There is pretty high demand for these sets, and people don't realize how easy it could be for one player to obtain several sets and how easy it could be for another player to lose several sets. Obviously, you don't want to be on the buying side of this trade, but you can definitely use the demand for these sets to your advantage. What I usually do, if I desperately need to clear inventory, is advertise in chat that I want to sell a lot of sets for cheap, maybe $200 per set. This is a huge underestimate of the market going price for each set, but $200 per set adds up. If I sell 3 to 5 sets every time I do this, I'm getting $600 to $1,000 per PvP trip. Taking a conservative outlook on these trades, I can get a Sharpness 3 sword after just 2 PvP trips. Better yet, because people are in search of diamond armor, usually don't wait until you run out of space. Instead, wait for someone to ask in chat that they want to buy diamond armor. In my experience, people usually offer around $500 per set. If you wait, you can improve your profits by a factor of 2.5. If you're an ambitious player on the server, and let's say you die on every 3rd engagement with a diamond player, in other words, you stack up 2 sets in your private vault and die on the 3rd fight, so you net 1 set per life, that means that after 9 fights, you can hypothetically walk away with $1,500. That's pretty insane. Now onto the better method in my opinion. As I mentioned before, OP Apples are extremely valuable on the server. It seems like players act a bit irrationally regarding this fact. Players on the auction house seem to overvalue these a lot. I'm talking like $1,000 to $3,000 per OP Apple. But at the same time, it also looks like players are more than willing to sacrifice 1 or 2 OP Apples just to kill one player who has worse stuff. If you fall into the category of players that does this, you're only doing yourself a disservice. You're making every PvP session a potential loss, and furthermore, you push yourself away from the goal of being able to top the best players, so please don't do this. Instead, notice that you get 3 OP apples on a daily basis. Store your OP apples and wait to sell them on the auction house. Even if you're like me and you only play a couple times a week, make the effort to hop online every day to do your kits. Even if you end up throwing away all the other things you get, just hang on to the OP apples. In my experience, OP apples on the auction house easily go for $750 a piece, so that's $22.50 each day that you don't even need to earn. That's a free 2k you get from existing as a player. Stack up money that way. If you use these strategies together, you store all your OP apples to sell them later, and you use your diamond armor and potions to take down other diamond players to sell their armor through the trade command. The last strategy is more of a general habit to keep in mind with the hope of getting lucky. Make sure to check the auction house frequently because you might be able to score a sweet deal. I've heard stories from my subscribers that they check the auction house often to look for deals in OP weapons like Power 5 bows and Sharpness 4 fire aspect swords. People have been able to get these for $2,000 to $8,000 respectively, so check your auction house when you can. If you have the chance, buy these below market price and sell them again at market price when you log out of the server. They'll probably sell overnight or whatever. Usually Sharpness 4 swords go for 15k and OP bows go for around 6 to 8. Obviously this isn't just limited to OP weapons. Do the same for other things like keys, potions, OP apples, etc. An experienced player will get a feel for the market prices of most items, so you don't have to make an uninformed decision. Do your research to figure out ballpark market prices. So the first 2 strategies are the more algorithmic ones of the 3, and the last one is a general rule, which will work in the long run. To reiterate, save and sell your OP apples and sell your diamond armor regularly. I'm looking for good strategies to pursue, ideally ones that are algorithmic, so please leave a comment with suggestions so I can continue to help you guys out. Let me know if you want to see more guides on the server or anything else for that matter. I always love well-constructed suggestions to better the channel, and I'm even willing to expand my repertoire of videos to another game mode or a game altogether. I hope the non-donor invaded players find this helpful. Just a quick word to everyone who's been sending me complaints about the invaded lands port not working. You're probably playing on a different form of Minecraft. You're either playing a version that's too new on Java, or you're playing on a different platform altogether like Pocket Edition or Bedrock. Please don't hurt me. It's not my fault that servers aren't offered cross-platform. Please know the difference between the different forms of Minecraft and don't take out your dissatisfaction on the little guy. Anyway, that's all I got for this guide. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.